The Cleveland Cavaliers select Evan Mobley.
Has been a historical franchise in this league for years.
We have a trade to announce. The Boston Celtics select Jason Tatum.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. My name's Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, on Instagram at Trevor Lane NBA, joined by Keith Smith. Find him at Keith Smith NBA over on the Twitter machine. Let's jump into the Western Conference. And Keith, what better place to start than with the Portland Trailblazers and Damian Lillard? Could be a pretty big update here for the Blazers and Lillard. Remember, their first-round pick, lottery protected this year, and sounds like Damian Lillard coming back this season is seriously in doubt.
Yeah, Damian Lillard gave his first interview since his surgery. A couple things out of that. He said this has been bothering him since the preseason started, or training camp, really, even before the preseason, in 2015-16. That's how long this injury has been.
Talk about lingering
with him. He said he felt it for the first time. He's felt it on and off ever since then. And he said what really convinced him that it was probably going to eventually have to be treated surgically was spending time with Drew Holiday, who had the same abdominal injury, told him, you're going to have to eventually have surgery. And he said, Drew Holiday said, you're feeling this, you're feeling this. It started like this, then it went to this and this and this. And he's like, he hit every single, milepost along the way. And he said that really convinced him when they were together over the Olympics this past summer. That convinced him at some point he was going to have surgery. Now, the next part was, he says he's feeling great. Says he immediately felt better, which is huge, and that's awesome. And he said it's going to take his time. And that was where then it got kind of interesting for the Blazers and the rest of this year, because Lillard said, I'm going to take my time and make sure I get it right. That's not overly interesting. Sure. He should, right? He's their franchise player. But then he added, and if it looks like we're playing for a draft pick, I'm not going to come back, was basically his quote. He said, that's not what I do. If we're trying to win, I'll get back. But if we're playing for a draft pick, it just doesn't make sense. And some people kind of took to making fun of him and saying, oh yeah, Mr. I don't run from the grind is running from the grind and all this other stuff. But the reality is, why would he push himself to get back for a team that isn't playing for a draft pick? Now, what could scuttle those plans? I know that the teams behind them in I was about to call it the Western Conference play-in race, but we'll call it the Western Conference play-in pillow fight. I don't know that they're doing all that they can to really catch them and run them down from behind. The Blazers are 20-26 in the 10th seed, and the Pelicans are 2.5 games behind them. Then you go to the Kings, 3, the Spurs, 3.5, and then the Thunder and Rockets are now they're done. They're 6 games and 6.5 games out. I don't know that those other teams are really doing all they can to run Portland down from behind and catch them. So
chase down
Portland
here.
Would have to really, exactly, would really have to pivot here to fall out that much and let a team catch them from behind.
So here, when I'm looking at this situation, because you're absolutely right. I mean, we talk about, like, if we go NFL, you hear about running backs that aren't that good. Could this guy fall into the end zone? Is the phrase that you hear all the time, as though like he almost does it accidentally. Could a team fall into the play-in tournament? The Pelicans, Pelicans are 2.5 games back behind the Blazers. The Kings are 3 games back. It just seems, you've got 3.5 for the Spurs. It just seems unlikely that these teams are going to make up that much ground, to where if you're Damian Lillard and you finally get to the point where, okay, physically you can come back, if you're still sitting in the 10 seed, which right now does feel likely, what do you consider that? Is that you're in the play-in tournament? Yes, is that making a push, or is that playing for a draft pick? What do you do with it if you're sitting in the 10 seed and you're Damian Lillard?
Yeah, I think let's game this out. Let's say it's the middle of March. There's a month to go in the season, and he's close to ready to return. Then I think you look at it and say, all right, hey, if I can get there, maybe we can make enough noise and we can, win a couple games in this play-in
Mm-hmm.
tournament and go. I mean, they're 2 games behind the Clippers, 2.5 behind the Lakers, 3 behind the Wolves. So starting to get towards where you're probably going to be 10th. Maybe that is the way you look at it and say, hey, we're still here and go. A lot will probably be guided by what do the Blazers do at the trade deadline, right? Because if they start trading away rotation guys for young guys, I don't know that Lillard's going to be thrilled to come back and, hey, let's play, in the play-in just to, get our heads knocked in and eliminated there. Hey, it's funny as I look at standings. If it was like the Pelicans and if it was like Zion's coming back in a couple weeks, and then I would feel like, all right, the Pelicans, they're going to get that momentum. They're going to chase them down. They're going to get that spot. If the Kings, if we felt confident, they're not selling off, they're going to push, they'll catch them. But we don't know what either one of those teams is going to do at the deadline. Doesn't sound like Zion will be back anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm Portland and Damian Lillard, I'm just basically going to say, let's let this play out and address it when it's time, when you're actually ready to go. There's no reason to, have this conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something where it will keep an eye on it, but how the Blazers act at the trade deadline, and I mean, coming up February 10th, that could very well have an impact, have a major impact on whether or not we see Damian Lillard again this season. Speaking of which, we might as well get into it. The Utah Jazz, reportedly a team that might be interested in getting Robert Covington, one of several guys from the Blazers that are known to be out there on the market. He's essentially just shy of a $13 million expiring contract. What are your thoughts about that? The Utah Jazz potentially has a landing spot for Covington. What he can bring for them? What would the Jazz have to give up? Where do we go with that?
Yeah, this came from Mark Stein of Substack. Mark said the Jeremy Grant is Utah's first target, but that the Pistons don't have any interest that involves Joe Ingles in a future first-round pick. Utah's in a little bit of a tricky spot with trading picks because they already owe, picks out from other deals. Let me make sure I'm getting them pulled up here. They owe a pick to Memphis. Sounds like that pick will go to Memphis this year. It has 1-6 protection, so Utah has slid there. They have not slid quite that much. But then they owe a pick to OKC 2 years after, so it'll probably be in 2024 with some protections on it. So first unencumbered pick they could trade is really 2027 likely. Maybe 2026. We'll see where that goes. So so that becomes a little harder. Now, Covington doesn't have the same value as Jeremy Grant. Obviously, right? He's not the same level of player. So my guess is if they were really like, hey, we want to move on from Ingles, that becomes almost a swap of expiring salaries. And maybe that's one where, hey, we'll add 2 seconds or something. And that might be enough, right? To go get Covington. Because if you're Portland, you're really kind of clearing out the challenge of, do we resign Covington or not? Portland could probably work a buyout with Joe Ingles at that point and free him up to go join and finish out the year with a contender. So that's probably where that's looking. But my guess is if Portland full on puts Covington on the market, they'll have a little bit more of a bidding war than just an expiring contract and a draft pick or 2 that aren't going to be that great.
And really, like when you look at Covington's stat sheet, it's underwhelming. 7.7 points per game, shooting 40% from the field if we round up, 36% from 3, 5 boards. But he does get...
Basically only takes 3.
Yeah, he pretty much only takes 3s. He's 31 years old, 1.4 steals, 1.3 blocks. But what you're looking for is what a lot of NBA teams are looking for, and that's versatility on the wing. He's a guy who can swing between the 4 and the 5 position that can be pretty switchy defensively. That's what you're trying to get. And for the Utah Jazz, for a team that, despite having Rudy Gobert, has had some defensive concerns, they rely on Rudy a lot to clean up a lot of things for them. I could see where making that kind of a swap, Ingles for Covington, and maybe you add some stuff, could help them because that is exactly what Covington brings, is that defensive presence.
Yeah, and if your hope is, hey, we've got enough ball movement anyway, that will make it work, because that's really Ingles' value right now. He's one of the better ball movers in the league. That would be your hope, right? Is where we can make this work. There's a lot of buzz around the Jazz right now. I mean, it just came out right now, just now. Rudy Gobert is going to be out for tonight with a calf strain. He had commented on that at the end of their game yesterday that he felt that for the first time. Donovan Mitchell is out, and they are sitting right now in fourth. The Grizzlies have a game lead on them. Dallas is coming up really strong behind the Jazz. Jazz are 3-7 in their last 10. Dallas is 8-2. The Denver Nuggets, they're starting to now create a little bit of separation. Starting to play a little bit better there. So let's see, what happens with the Jazz. But we're hearing a lot of buzz out of Utah, a lot more than you would normally hear around a team that I think folks thought might be a title contender coming in, just because of the way their poor play this year and how much they've slept.
Yeah, it might be some urgency to make a move there. Some good news. Looks like Anthony Davis is on the verge of returning. Was actually pushed to being questionable for last night's game against the Miami Heat. Was questionable the day before. It's the first time he's been questionable since suffering his injury, MCL sprain, in the middle of December. Did not play against the Miami Heat. The Lakers ultimately said that they knew he was unlikely to play in that particular game, but that he is getting closer. We did see him playing in some 2-on-2 work before the game, so wouldn't be a surprise if the Lakers have him in their next game, which is coming up against the Brooklyn Nets, and if not, then it's going to be sometime soon. I think that's the key takeaway here. Anthony Davis just about ready to make his return.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I don't need to tell you or
they need him.
Lakers fans who watch this, they need him and need him pretty badly. We're getting down to what do they have? One game left on this road trip?
No, they've got I think 4. Is it?
Oh, this was
the
6-game trip. Was this supposed to be the Grammys trip?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so that would make sense.
They have 4 left.
Yeah, so they've got the Nets this week tomorrow. So definitely some need for him there. As an aside, this Thursday there's only 2 games. This Thursday, just as the league is kind of they try to get almost everybody on Martin Luther King Day, and then when you do that, it takes a little bit to reset. But yeah, this Thursday only 2 games: Lakers 76ers, Timberwolves Warriors. That's it. A 2-game Thursday night coming up this week. But yeah, it's the Lakers need him badly. It's I thought it was interesting, LeBron. Comments of I'm in the best zone I've been in maybe in my career, I think was how he put that, and I think there's definitely some truth in there. I mean, he is playing unbelievable. It's not and it's funny because people are like, well, he's not shooting that great or scoring crazy amounts he scored, and he was very clear. He's like, it's not just about the points, it's about the way he's playing overall. But sticking with your Lakers, not really news. They've offered the Talen Horton-Tucker and Kendrick Nunn in a pick package basically everywhere. They're not getting anywhere with that. That was offered for Jeremy Grant. That was reported out there, and not enough to move the needle for the Pistons. But what I found kind of interesting is where the Lakers are struggling a little bit is in their availability to be able to trade picks. We know they owe a pick this year to either New Orleans or Memphis. Next year is New Orleans has swap rights on their pick, so they could trade it, but that's a complicating factor. But they can't really trade that one because then in 2024 or 2025, New Orleans can own the Lakers pick, and because of the Stepien rule, you can't trade back-to-back first-round picks. So what's going to happen here is they are limited to the earliest pick that they can offer up is they can put language of 2026 if New Orleans takes the 2024. But New Orleans could clearly screw that all up and say, no, we'll wait to 2025 or 2027 or 2028. What I'm starting to wonder is if you're the Lakers, do you call David Griffin and say, hey, we give you an extra second rounder just for basically for nothing. Give us draft right swap or whatever coming back our way or minimum amount of cash. We give you a second rounder. Would you say we'll take the pick in 2024? Just eliminate that deferment option. Because then what that does is that frees the Lakers up to trade 2026 and 2028 right now today. So that's just something to keep an eye on, that if it really comes down to it and they're really struggling, because the reality is we know now the Horton-Tucker Nunn package, it's just not getting you much value. It just isn't. And if you one first round pick with it, yeah, maybe as we get closer to the deadline and some teams like, yeah, I got nothing else. But you're talking Terrence Ross, Gary Harris type
Yeah,
players. You're not
and that's
getting
not
a
worth it.
super impactful player for that. And then exactly at that point, if you're like,
You might as well
that's
just
not worth
right.
it. Just
Not that
hey.
those are bad
So
players by any means, but
no, but just yeah, they're not. That's not that right package there. So just something to throw out there to keep an eye on.
and also mentioned by Kelly Eco of the Athletic, the Rockets don't value Talen Horton-Tucker as much on his current contract as they would have last year on his rookie deal. Now that he's making $10 million per season, so if that's the case too, and if that's not just a Houston Rockets thing, and we're going to get into the Rockets and the Lakers in just a second here, but if that is the belief that's held by other teams around the NBA as well, that maybe they don't want to give Talen Horton-Tucker $10 million. He's got $10 million roughly next year, and then a player option for a third year. If they see that as a negative value contract, that's only going to make things more difficult. Now, he's obviously a very polarizing player. It's going to be an eye of the beholder situation, but that can complicate things even further for the Lakers as they try to make a move. As far as the draft pick protection and all that kind of stuff, that was done on purpose. The Pelicans set that up specifically to try to stop the Lakers from improving in the future because they've got an incentive in the Lakers being bad. They want the Lakers to be bad so they can get better picks. So that's what we're seeing play out here for the Lakers. Will be interesting to see if they can make a move or not. One of the rumors that's been out there, and that's from Mark Stein, and now it's been backed up by Kelly Eco of The Athletic, is this idea of a Russell Westbrook for John Wall swap. Now, Mark Stein and now The Athletic have both confirmed that the Rockets would want the 2027 first if they're going to do this, or potentially maybe get a third team involved. If a third team wanted THT, they could ship that there for something the Rockets want. The bottom line is the Rockets would want Russell Westbrook plus stuff in order to do that deal, which is kind of ironic because it wasn't that long ago that the Wizards gave up John Wall plus a pick in order to get Russell Westbrook. So now it's going back the other direction. But in any event, that's where things are looking. I know Lakers fans have been contemplating, would you swap Westbrook for Wall and all of that? Well, the Rockets, for them, it's the same. You're either paying John Wall the same amount of money you would Russell Westbrook. You're paying them just to sit at home. Neither player is actually going to play for the team. So they want some sort of incentive to actually do a deal like that.
And where it becomes slightly different is Mark Stein, who was all over this reporting last week, has said, the Rockets don't have any interest in Westbrook ever playing for them again. And they believe, unlike with John Wall, who's not willing to entertain buyout talks, that Westbrook would jump right into buyout talks and would be willing to, talk about that and see where that goes. And that's where that could also be a difference of, right, hey, we're going to get off some future money as well here in this. Now, you're still talking a whole lot of money that you got to work out by, this takes this makes the Blake Griffin buyout talks look like child's play because we're talking about significantly more money, almost $30 million more dollars owed there. But there's some precedent of guys giving up a boatload there, and Westbrook's a different dude. Different kind of guy. He might say, hey, I really want to go play somewhere. I continue to believe we will be 2.5 weeks from now on February 11th, and Russell Westbrook will be a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. That's how it'll be through the rest of the season, and let's see where it goes in the summer.
I agree too. If you're the Lakers, say you're Rob Pelinka, and you're approaching this situation, you say, well, Westbrook hasn't worked out the way we wanted, but if we sell him now to the Rockets and we have to give up a first round pick to do this, right? That you're admitting that you were wrong to make the deal very publicly, right? To get Russell Westbrook, and then you're having to pay more to get rid of that. That's just locking in the fact that it was not a success and completely ruling out any possibility of things working out with Russ in the second half of the season when he has a history of performing better in the second half of the season than the first. So, and I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but you are guaranteeing that you have lost that trade badly if you make that move right now. So just from a perception standpoint, I would think it would be tough for the Lakers to pull the trigger on something like that. Now, if it's like Russ and a second for John Wall, maybe you can make an argument there, but to give up a 2027 first that far, it's dangerous trading a first that far in the future. It would be, I would be surprised if the Lakers front office went that way.
Yeah, that's more of a, hey, we have a chance this summer to really fully reset and build this thing out for the next 3-4 years with better fitting and younger players, that's different than just, hey, I need to get off this contract right now. Because the reality is we haven't seen John Wall play.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't know, we don't know that he's going to come in and help you much at all on the
Is
court.
he better than Russell Westbrook?
We don't know.
We have no idea.
Yeah. Sometimes what you know is better than what you know.
All right. Eric Gordon, this was also a report that was out there, has received interest from teams around the NBA, but the Rockets were characterized as a team that's not been all that active. The report was that they've been getting more calls coming in than they've been making going out because they are in a kind of a different phase right now. They're focusing on developing their young players, but multiple teams have been interested in Eric Gordon. So far, they have all been declined, and the Rockets are okay with keeping him through the deadline. We talked about this on the previous episode with Daryl Morey, though. How much of this is posturing? How much of this is just trying to drive the price up as much as they can? We'll see what happens there. I think he's a very movable piece for the Houston Rockets. Will they get exactly what they want for him? I'm not sure, but I don't know how much I buy. Oh, we don't really want to trade him. I think that's more just, leverage here.
Yeah, that's it. I think this is just another, thing that, again, we're still more than 2 weeks out from the trade deadline. This is just more of the, we're happy to keep him. Let's see where that goes. Now, another player on the Rockets, yes, this is turning into Rockets hour here, is Christian Wood. It sounds like they are really getting a lot of questions about Christian Wood, and they're really looking at, hey, what does it look like to, trade Christian Wood? So I think that is, definitely something we're going to, continue to monitor here. Well, he fits a whole bunch of teams because he's really a 5, but he can play the 4 if you need him to with the right 5 next to him, and can do a lot of different things. So let's see, if that one materializes into anything.
Do you see the Rockets making a move, or do you buy into this report that they're good just standing pat?
No, they'll do something, but I don't think it's going to be anything big. I think it'll be a DJ Augustine kind of move, maybe Daniel Tice, 2 veterans who aren't in their rotation and part of things. So, yeah, I think, for sure we could see that.
All right. Anything else that we need to touch upon before we call it a show here? I'm looking to see if we had any Woj or Shams or Stein or any of those kind of bombs coming off.
I just did the same check, and I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Well, the trade deadline, it's coming up quick, which means there's going to be a lot of news coming out over the next few weeks. Again, make sure you stay in the know. Subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications as well. We're going to be breaking down everything for you, getting you through what is a very fun, very fast-paced, very exciting time in the season. Can be a little bit crazy, too, with the amount of information that's out there. So, again, make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications.
Not on our normal recording schedule, we will do an additional show to get into it. It won't be if it's the Juancho Hernan Gomez salary dump extraordinaire trade. We won't do that. That will wait till our next scheduled show.
If there's a Simmons siren.
If there's a Simmons siren or anybody who might make a huge difference in the playoffs traded, we will jump on to it.
And by the way, guys, I do want to mention we've been getting a lot of new subscribers lately, and we are on the cusp of hitting 15,000. So we truly appreciate it. Help us out, get us over the top there for 15,000, and make sure you do subscribe. All right, till next time, everybody. Stay safe and see ya.